All right, guys, we're going to keep going right along to our panel titled User Experience in Dotsama-based DeFi. First, we got to introduce the moderator for the panel, Mr. Galen Danziger. What's up, Galen?
Hey, nice to be on. Going to be great to talk about user experience with all you guys. With me, I've got Agile with Talisman, Greg with the Unique Network, and William with Soramitsu.
Great, let's get into it.
All right. Well, great to have you on, guys. Do you want to, say hello, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're working on? Maybe we'll start with you, Greg.
Sure, thanks. My name is Greg. I work with Unique Network as a CTO. We've started probably a couple of years ago building the NFT infrastructure and Polkadot ecosystem, and of course we think about a lot of user experience in the ecosystem.
No, absolutely. And William, you want to give a quick intro, talk about what you're working on?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm William from Soramitsu. We're currently working on the Fearless Wallet non-custodial open source mobile wallet app for Kusama and Polkadot.
Oh, absolutely. And Agile, you want to do the same?
Sure, thank you, Galen. Hey, I'm Agile. I'm the co-founder of Talisman and the speaker. And Talisman is building a browser extension wallet for Dotsama, for Polkadot Kusama and the parachains, or also known as what we like to call the Paraverse.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think there's a lot to get into. I think jumping right into it, what do you guys see as the main pain points for UX right now in the Polkadot ecosystem?
I see I'll put my hand up to answer this one if you guys don't mind. I think we're all aware broadly of a lot of user experience challenges that Web3 tech has, but I think typically, when we build applications, there are user experience invariants that are derived from the network design and the architecture. And that what's that like? What I mean by that is that the way that the underlying blockchain stuff is made, it impacts how the user is able to leverage it and what they must do. And so, we're broadly aware of a lot of annoying user experience patterns, but the multi-chain world presents some new ones. Namely that if I have an account which I can leverage on many chains, I'm going to end up with coins all over the place. I can have, in the Ethereum world, if I'm just using Ethereum mainnet, I have many accounts with many tokens, and now I have many blockchains with many accounts of many tokens. It's a bit of a combinatorial explosion. And so I think, the user, we're going to have to come up with sort of new language for explaining the usage patterns of multi-chain applications, because the user needs to understand that they're leveraging sort of many or more than one of these sort of money networks, as well as a lot of the typical Web3 sort of user experience problems dealing with hexadecimal addresses and all these kinds of things, backing up keys, etc.
Oh, absolutely. And I think especially with Polkadot, you have one seed derives different addresses on many different parachains, which each have different account balances. You get very large amount of possibilities to handle there. I guess moving on to the next one, what do you guys think makes Dotsama DeFi different than other networks?
I think I'll jump right in and answer that one. From our side, this is also a question that really ties into the previous one. There's a big challenge for wallets to support and handle the fast-growing number of networks and assets. So focusing specifically on our product, Fearless Wallets, we're trying to provide users with a clear and convenient way to manage all their tokens on all the networks. So definitely optimization and navigation and various tools to adjust the wallets to the user's needs are something that we try to focus on for this for the Dotsama environment. Another challenge would be to develop seamless flows that allow the users to switch between basic and advanced operations without causing them any anxiety or confusion. Transfers and cross-chain teleports that aren't that different, it would seem attractive to develop a unified flow to cover both actions.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, on that topic, so when a user moves assets between networks or they bridge something, do you think that this is something that they should be aware of, or is this something that is handled better behind the scenes?
Definitely, it's something people should be aware of. I think the difference in architecture of the many networks that constitute this ecosystem means that applications will be built in different ways. And whether an application, there are some things that are relevant and some things that are not. And I think that which network you're leveraging is relevant, right? Like perhaps if we draw a broad circle around all the parachains, we might say that this is all the same ecosystem. But if you're using Solana versus Ethereum, there's different, like it matters, the difference. And so yeah, I think the network itself is something the user needs to understand. There are some other superfluous things like whether an application is an EVM application or whether it's built in substrate. And I think that some of that stuff is at the moment imposed upon the user to understand and choose a wallet appropriately. But I think that things like that should probably become irrelevant. But I think the network definitely is relevant because, I mean, what we're doing here is we're building networks with added benefits in terms of decentralization. And I think that's not something that society values right now, but I think that society will change in the same way that privacy has become front of mind for a lot of people in the last 5 years. Signal, like the zeitgeist has changed, and a project like Signal Messenger has been a massive benefactor of like sort of the public consciousness waking up to the need for privacy. Decentralization is a cost center. It's harder to build these apps. It's harder to use these apps, but the benefit is in censorship resistance, in having like openness and governance. And it's going to require, a lot of events playing out. And I think people will eventually value that a lot more. And they'll need to know whether they're leveraging something that is decentralized or not.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Anybody else have anything to add on this?
And of course, the security should be taken considered here because transferring assets between different parachains is very safe because it's all done through the consensus mechanism of the relay chain, and it's way different from transferring assets between through the bridges between the other networks.
Oh, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
just to throw.
Yeah. So actually, on this topic, when you have something like a bridge, users sort of every single time they use a bridge to transfer an asset, they sort of take a little bit of a security risk. They're assuming that bridge will hold their assets there. If they're maybe they're sending assets to a contract or a multi-sig wallet or however it's implemented, they put their money somewhere and they trust whoever's issuing the asset on the other chain to do it securely. How do you educate your users or like alleviate concerns about security inside like an application design?
It's a really hard problem. I think there's probably there's two areas that we think about at Talisman, both of which we're sort of the progress we've made in these areas is incredibly little. It's nascent. We have like a big vision, but we haven't been able to focus on it too much yet. One is like transaction comprehension. The really good thing about Substrate is that you can sort of decode. We're not even decoding. You're just asking the blockchain for more information about the transactions that users are performing, and I think we can articulate a lot more to the user about what is in their transaction and what they're doing, especially as we start to leverage XCM and we see transactions that leverage multiple networks at once. It's going to be really important to explain that to the user, and also we can do that much more easily in a substrate environment than you can, with the EVM, and then having to grab a binary contract and decompile it and compare it to Etherscan. And it's much easier when blockchain systems are clearly defined, rather than sort of trying to decode the code that constitutes programs in this little EVM sandbox. The other thing is just like broad education, right? Like I think that I've heard over the years people say many times that like crypto and Web3 user experience needs to become better. And I think I agree, but what people mean, like typically when they say this, is that we need to abstract away all of the challenges and problems. And I don't think that's correct. I think that if you abstract away too much complexity, too many of the sort of the challenges, you lose the benefits of like a non-custodial wallet, you lose the benefits of crypto. And so the example I point out, which instantly sort of changes people's minds and enlightens them, is I say like the QWERTY keyboard is not exactly an intuitive interface, right? We all had to use rote memorization to learn this interface, but the benefit of being able to leverage a computer as a creative tool, and the benefit of being able to type 100 words a minute versus sort of like 2-finger type, your emails out, is such an efficiency gain that now it just becomes normal. And there's going to be a class of people that know how to leverage this and a class of people that don't. And, over time, we might see that this becomes to not have this skill means you're in some dimension kind of illiterate. But I think, broadly, we need to educate people as much as possible. But I think, I tend to believe that the snake will just eat its own tail, and eventually, when enough people have leveraged this sort of technology in ways that others haven't, it'll like the barrier to entry will lower, and people will copy, and people will learn, they'll get on board.
Okay, so you sort of think people, like the things that are difficult or the complex flows, people will just learn them and accept them as normal, essentially.
Well, the difficulty will come down, right? Like look at how much easier it is to shoot and edit a video these days. Like technology will change, and as like more people can build video games, more people can build websites with no code solutions, more people can shoot and edit video on their phone. Like the solutions will get easier, but the underlying, like, we can't just delete the underlying properties by outsourcing them to a different service, right? That's just removes the benefit. And so I think, it will get easier, but culture has to change, and that requires, more people leveraging these technologies to outperform people who aren't leveraging them, and business changing, and I think, I think a lot of UX, I think we're like 80%, like UX is like 80% as good as it's going to get, right? Like I think the products will get nicer, and things will get friendlier, and things will get clearer. But what's going to happen is we're going to develop, like people need to learn the memes, and people need to learn the patterns, because things we've learned in the past, like the QWERTY keyboard, are not exactly simple either.
No, absolutely. And here, actually, William, I want to get your take on this as well, because you worked on a mobile wallet product. You probably deal with different sorts of users, different sorts of challenges as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's very valuable, the input that Agile provides. Indeed, we can do a lot on our part as developers or as creators of a product, of a wallet. But then if, for example, let's say you have a non-custodial wallet, you have this initial sort of hurdle of people to tell them, hey, if you lose your keys, then that's that. So there's this big challenge where, there's definitely a big factor in education where you have to tell people, like, do not share your keys with anyone. There are a lot of people out there trying to scam you. A lot of people are going to ask you or pretend to be helpful, and then try and get this information out of you. And as much as you can provide a very good user experience and simplify lots of flows, like let's say participating in a crowd loan or staking, as long as this basic principle of not your keys, not your coins kind of thing doesn't sink into people, I think that is going to be a big obstacle, big learning curve for widespread adoption to Web3.
Oh, absolutely. Greg, you have anything to add there?
Yeah, it's a very true point about educating users. Nonetheless, a lot of friction is still to be removed, especially if we're talking about the transaction fees. There's a lot of improvement that we can do here. For example, we implemented sponsoring. We created a sponsoring palette that allows application owners to sponsor their users' transactions and basically protect them from any Web3 experience until it's really necessary.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. So this works where users don't pay a gas fee to sign their transaction. The contract assumes the gas fee, or the pallet does rather.
Actually, yeah, and application creators can handle that, can pay any fees for their users and monetize in any other way they're used to.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's an interesting way to deal with a UX challenge for sure. And I do want to move on a little bit to the topic of wallets. So we've talked about like how there are some UX challenges, people are working on them. What are some design features that you've seen improve in wallets in general over time?
Well, I think in addition to wallets getting better, like the scope of what people want to leverage them to do has changed over time, right? And so I think I don't know if wallets have gotten that much better so much as what has happened is like how consumers want to leverage them has become clearer, and people have been able to optimize around those dimensions, right? So, you look at something like MetaMask back in the day, and MetaMask, I think, unfortunately had baked into it. This is something, well, not unfortunately, they're doing great, but like this assumption that Ethereum would scale. And so as a wallet, they should be incredibly unopinionated about how they're leveraged, right? They should allow people to do any transaction because you could be using Ethereum for an identity solution, for finance, for et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things, Mango's on the blockchain, whatever ideas people were cooking up back in the day, right? And so now if you look at products like Rainbow Wallet and Talisman, like really all we're doing is getting a bit clearer on the problems that we're solving. So, like it's better NFT like portfolio management, being able to see your NFTs and things like that. But obviously the culture, like what wallets are for, is gonna, like the scope of what they can be leveraged to do is still as big as people originally approximated, and so yeah, I think generally as consumer behavior changes, people are going to get better at showing, managing portfolios, what constitutes a portfolio. I think they're getting better at being social and interesting, and like allowing you to leverage your account as a kind of identity in this world of like not having any privacy. We've kind of just like people have figured out how to leverage the upside of there being no privacy, which is that everyone has an implicit identity. Yeah, and I think they have gotten a bit better. One area I'd really like to see them get better is in the risk management domain. So like Talisman is a browser extension wallet. You have some keys, you can use applications. It's not the best place to store $100 million, right? Like where your seed is encrypted by a password in your browser. That's not a safe place to operate as a bank. But yeah, if we can leverage smart contract wallets, multi-sigs, if we can sort of build these layers of risk management, social recovery on top, that's something that I think that is going to allow a lot more people and organizations to get into crypto and leverage crypto, because they can have a range of solutions in terms of their key management strategy and their risk management.
Some of the app wallets are applications are also using wallets for authentication. That's certainly, and that's another scheme of authentication that is opposite to centralized. It's because the wallet is basically used as a signer, just where signing a random phrase or whatever, and proving that the address belongs to the user. But that's authentication technically. And I'd like to see wallets to improve on that and maybe implement some auth2 schemas.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a cool direction for them. Now, on that.
Sorry, Greg, can you just expand? What's an auth2 schema? I don't know what that is.
Well, auth2 is basically authorization of applications to use some of the user data, and that's basically what Web3 where Web3 is going, or the direction Web3 is going. And initially, to provide users the control of their data and what's being used and for what applications. auth2 is basically allowing you to. It's already widely used in Web2. You can see it's being used by any single sign-on applications or implementations.
JSON, like leveraging a JSON web token from one service in another service.
Exactly.
Okay,
yep.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think similar things are possible with proxy accounts, but we're yet to really pull the thread and explore that. I think that one of the problems that we as like founders or like business people working with wallets have is that like in this multi-chain world is that there's kind of like a conflict between innovating in terms of the accounts and innovating in terms of the wallet itself, and then actually being composable and being able to be leveraged across many chains, right? So I hope that we can leverage proxy accounts a little bit more in the future to possibly do some things like this, but maybe more suitable for you guys at Unique if you guys, since you're sort of building the whole stack, you're also building the end user application and the wallet as well. You can control all those flows.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, and on the note earlier, you were sort of saying wallets are becoming more specialized. Like wallets are doing specific things. Do you think people are going to have multiple wallets for different use circumstances, or there's going to be like one wallet that does everything?
I don't know, but it seems like there's scope for both, right? Like, I think markets tend to fragment and consolidate as technology changes. And I don't, I think it's hard to say what sort of stage we're in. But obviously, yeah, you can use, if you're a crypto savvy person, you can use, someone's just written both in the chat. You can use MetaMask. You'll be able to use like a wallet to do most anything. But then also if if all you're going to do is use games, is play blockchain games, then there's a business that's going to try and build a solution for you. So I think both. We'll see a slew of both, but I don't know whether there will be a super wallet like in the future that everyone, like a Google of wallets. We'll see. I hope not.
Absolutely. Let's see. Are we good on time? I thought we had 25 minutes. I'm not sure. If not,
you guys have until just before 20 after.
Oh, okay. Cool. Well, moving on then. Next question I've got for you guys about XCM. So, how do you see XCM as a benefit to the cross-chain experience, and how do you think applications and wallets are going to integrate this?
I can offer some thoughts, although we don't. Again, the short answer is I don't know. I think XCM is incredibly new technology, and I fundamentally see the potential of XCM as enabling a user experience very much like the original single chain user experience of Ethereum. So on Ethereum, let's assume that it scaled. We snap our fingers and we solve this scalability trilemma. I have one account and I can leverage many applications, and that's amazing because it means that there's an install base of users that have these valuable accounts. Capitalists can shop and build businesses and protocols that leverage those. Users then get more value, and there's more users coming to the network, and there's this flywheel effect that happens, right? And obviously, we ran out of block space, so we needed to have more blockchains, and it would make sense also if those blockchains were to have some sort of shared language with which to agree on how value is exchanged. And I think I see XCM as potentially bringing us back to that original, single chain user experience where the user has essentially one account that's composable across every chain, and they can move funds arbitrarily between chains. And but they're really only going to do so in an application context. Like I go to an app and I want to upload my money to that application or upload my coins. And so I think it will be, I hope, maybe there's more insane things we can do. I think the idea that we can plug applications together that previously would not have been economically viable in the same network, like Subsocial and Unique and Equilibrium. You can somehow have social media be composable with NFTs, be composable with DeFi. That is sort of this Internet of Blockchains vision that people talk about with Dotsama. But I think from a wallet's perspective, what we want to get back to is that single chain user experience where it's essentially your wallet is your single sign-on, it's your identity to the metaverse, and you can just go and leverage anything. And somewhere between the application and the wallet, the complexity is managed of what's going on under the hood.
And we come back here to the question of UX because the users may have single chain experience, but multiple chains are optimized for multiple different things. Like you mentioned, Subsocial can allow you to create some media, and Unique allows you to play with NFTs and create have some fun. While with some game item, you can move it to Akala and have it and use it as a collateral to get some tokens borrowed.
Okay, so you think applications are going to find ways to extend user interactions across many chains? But
I'm absolutely sure of that. Yes.
So do you think it's going to feel like a single atomic interaction, or are people still going to? Do you think they'll make it piecewise per chain?
In my opinion, it should feel like an atomic operation, and the user shouldn't even see much of a difference. Well, they might be aware or slightly, there might be a slight hint that they're using multiple chains, but it's better to have less barriers.
I think in the short term, users will know that they're leveraging multiple chains, because if you bridge one dot to chain A and you do something, you then the net result is you've got money on another chain, right? So you need to go into your wallet. You need to be able to see that I have money now on 10 networks because I've used 10 different applications based on different networks. But perhaps in the future, it might be completely abstracted away by virtue of you having some kind of wallet home base. I have a smart contract wallet on A*, and like a Gnosis Safe style product. And then through XCM, I leverage Unique and Subsocial and all of these chains. And I never actually really have to, what I'm not doing is sending money all over the place. I'm sort of sending it to these chains and then sort of bridging it back as necessary. And it's all managed remotely from sort of one chain. That might be a long-term future where we get even more abstraction and simplicity for the end user, but long way away.
It's very interesting that you mentioned this single hub with all of your different chains. At Fearless Wallet, we're recently actually just, I think today, completed a Kusama Council grant to provide multi-chain support. So from your one wallet interface, you get all your assets from Kusama, from Subsocial, from Polkadot, Akala, Altair, etc., with a very easy and kind of user-friendly interface where you can just manage which coins you use, which coins you don't, but you still have access to all of the chains.
Hey guys, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have to end this session to move to the next. So please, if you could wrap up, that would be wonderful.
All good, no worries.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's about the last question I've got on deck. Thanks everyone who chimed in, had something to add. This was a pretty cool discussion on the topic. You guys have any quick shout outs or announcements you want to make? Feel free to make them. Otherwise, I think we can move on.
Yeah, I'll just plug
all right, thanks.
Talisman quickly, which is, check out Talisman. We're a browser extension wallet for the Polkadot ecosystem. The best way to leverage applications and see all of your assets in the browser.
Yeah, I would add try out Fearless Wallet on Android and iOS devices and stay fearless.
I guess on my side, Mousebelt's working on the ICE network. They're soon to try for a slot on Kusama. So the Snow network is soon to try for a slot on Kusama. So stay posted for that. Well, that's all we got now. Thanks everyone for chiming in.